Good morning, and who do we have with us today? Can you introduce yourself?
My name is Sonny. On the trail I go by Nimblewheel, or Nimblewheel Nomad is my full trail name.
Nice. So we're happy to have you here with us for a couple nights in our hostel and meet you.
The pleasure's all mine. I want you to know that you have just a beautiful facility, and I've managed to get rested and refreshed and recharged here, and the energy from you and Sunset's encouragement and kindness to me has been a real benefit.
Awesome.
Well, tell us about this trek. This is one in a series of many, but you started, where did you start this trek? And why did you start there?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, and thanks for letting me discuss that with you, because that's pretty much the main driving force that got me out here again, save for the wanderlust that turns us into hiker trash to start with, to bring emphasis and recognition and awareness to the fact that when you go to Springer Mountain to start your hike, you really are kind of just jumping on the wagon when it's halfway to market. The Appalachian Mountain Range doesn't begin at Springer Mountain. In fact, it doesn't begin anywhere near Springer Mountain. By trail, the beginning of the Appalachian Mountain Range is 417 miles from Springer Mountain at a place called Flag Mountain, Alabama. Flag Mountain is situated geographically pretty much about halfway between Montgomery and Birmingham, so it's kind of centrally located in Alabama. So we have beautiful trail there. The trail is called the Pin Hoti National Recreation Trail, and we joined the two trails, the one in Alabama and the one in Georgia, but we still call them the Alabama Pin Hoti and the Georgia Pin Hoti, but they combine to make the Pin Hoti National Recreation Trail, and it's just a beautiful trail. Sunsets, I've been on the trails, okay? So when I tell you that we have a nice trail, I have some background and awareness of what makes a good trail.
I think you do.
So and it's gaining recognition now. There was a time when I was probably, if not the biggest proponent, but certainly one of the major proponents on wanting to extend the Appalachian Trail further south to Flag Mountain, because that was sort of Benton MacKay's dream to start with. He had urged that the trail start somewhere way south of where it ended up now. And indeed, I've changed my mind now on that. The Pin Hoti is gaining its own really favorable recognition among the hiking community, and there's problems on Springer Mountain. There's just tremendous excessive overuse of the trail, I guess is not a kind way to say it, but that's exactly you got people hanging from the trees up there on Springer Mountain. We don't want that problem over there in Alabama, because it's still pristine. The mountain's pristine. The use of the trail, our treadway is not all rocks and roots. There's some actual dirt on our treadway over there yet. So I've changed my mind on that. We just want to call the Pin Hoti Trail the longest approach trail there is.
I like that.
And then it can maintain its own identity, which it deserves, because it's become very popular. We take good care of our trail. We have we have trail that is really unique. We have trail that's enjoyable to hike. We have trail that's challenging, and we take care of our trail. If there's a blowdown, it's reported to us, and the next day or so, one of our maintainers is out there and cleans that up and clears it out. If we have a problem with people missing a turn, we say, well, that turn's not marked, or it's not marked well enough. There'll be somebody out there with a paintbrush the next day to make sure that the next people coming through aren't going to miss that trail. So we're very proud of the trail, and rightfully so, because it's a beautiful trail. So I'm pretty much here to talk to you and whoever I have an opportunity to bend their ear about the Pin Hoti Trail. So thanks for asking.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
And that was where you began this journey this time. Flag Mountain, right?
There's always a little twist to this stuff.
Yeah.
Flag Mountain is a location of one of the most beautiful Civilian Conservation Corps stone structures that there is. You have one here close to you at Warrior. It doesn't come close to comparing to the tower we have. The tower there is twice as tall. It has the old original cab on the top yet. They're in the process now, and the contract's been let to. It has the old original wooden staircase in it yet, and it's all rotten, and that'll be torn out and it'll be replaced with pressure treated timbers. But the trail doesn't start there where the tower is. The trail starts a mile away on the flanks of Flag Mountain, because that was the only place they had. We found a flat enough spot for sufficient parking.
Okay.
Because you're a mile away from the summit of Springer at Cross Trails Parking, because that was about as close as they could get where you could handle a good number of vehicles. So I started my hike at the tower, and I hiked north, and I'm here, and my hike's complete from the tower to here, but it's not complete from the beginning of the Pin Hoti
I
Trail.
see.
So when I'm finished with this hike, again, to try to bring further and more recognition to the Pin Hoti Trail, I'll finish Odyssey 2021 by going to the parking lot in the beginning, the first blue blaze of the Pin Hoti Trail, and I'll hike that mile, and the new stairs will be in the tower by then, and I'll climb the tower, and that'll be the end of my hike.
Nice.
Isn't that a deal?
That's a deal.
Cool.
Okay.
So each trek you do, you call it an Odyssey for that year?
All of my journeys have been labeled as Odysseys. If you read something about
I was looking at
the
your
original
website, yeah.
Odysseys. And indeed, they've been incredible adventures. So this is just another one on top of all the previous ones. And it happens to be the one I'm in now, so it's the very best of all of them.
Exactly. Well, for our people watching our videos who don't know anything about you, can you give us a brief overview of your history and your hiking? And I mean, you've done like everything, it seems.
I finished my first long hike, and that was the fodder for my first book, entitled 10 Million Steps. And the title for that book came from something we all know and understand, and kind of hard to argue with, because we've been told, and it's been written about for years and years, that if you're going to hike the Appalachian Trail, you're going to hike about 5 million steps. So the hike I did in 1998 was twice as long as the Appalachian Trail, so 2 times 5 is... Okay, so that's where the 10 million steps came from, and nobody's disputed that. So that was my first long hike. I had mentioned to you before about trying to put together a section hike on the Appalachian Trail, which I failed miserably in trying to do, but my first long hike was in 1998.
And which trail was that?
That.
That's a trail called the Eastern Continental Trail, and I've been recognized as naming that trail.
Oh.
It starts at Key West, Florida, and at the time it ended where we thought the Appalachians ended, at a place called the Cliffs of Forillon in Cap Gaspé, Quebec. So that year I hiked 4,400 miles from Key West to the Forillon National Park in Quebec.
Wow.
So that's what the first book is about, and since then, 23 years, 22 years now, I've hiked pretty much every year. I've done a major hike. To me, a short hike is at least 3 months. So I've done some fairly long hikes every year. And in the process, over the last 20 some years, I've managed to hike. Everyone knows about the Appalachian Trail. Those who have maybe paid a little more attention realize there's other trails, and the two other ones that they pretty much know something about is the PCT, Pacific Crest Trail, and the CDT, the Continental Divide Trail, that they combine and form a little quirky thing that we call the Triple Crown. So I've done those trails, but what folks don't realize is most people, some are aware of it, but we have 11 national scenic trails. Did you know that?
Mm-hmm.
And they're every bit as nice and every bit as challenging, and for some reason the three trails have been chosen to be the Triple Crown, ended up being the Triple Crown, but we have some other trails that are really beautiful. So during the last 20 some years, I've become dear friends with a fellow by the name of Bart Smith. Bart was the first person to have hiked all 11 national scenic trails. He did that in 2011. And we've hiked a lot together since then. We've done the Trails of Westward Expansion together, the Pioneer Trails. There's 6 major Pioneer Trails. But anyway, 2 years later, I pulled it off. I was the second person to have hiked all 11 of the national scenic trails, which
Nice.
it's one of those things I just fell into. I was hiking along one day and I realized, well, hey, old man, you've hiked all but 3 of our national scenic trails. Why don't you just go ahead and do the other 3? So,
what were the last 3 that you needed to do?
They were our latest trails that have been added to the original 8. We have 11 now, and they're beautiful trails. One of them is the Arizona Trail. The trail in the Northeast. They've hooked 3 or 4 trails together up there, and the name escapes me. And then the third one,
the North Country Trail.
the North Country Trail. That's a 4,400 mile bugger that runs from the Dakotas clear into the Adirondacks. But the other one is the Pacific Northwest Trail.
Oh, okay.
And it's probably the most challenging of all of them. So those were the 3 I hadn't done. So I finished those in 2013, I guess. And so I got to know Bart, and he was hiking. At the time, he had finished all 11, and he was working on our National Historic Trails, and the premier ones being the Trails of Westward Expansion, our Pioneer Trails. And he had done the Oregon Trail, and I came behind him the next year and hiked the Oregon Trail. The way it works out, a number of our Pioneer Trails are superimposed one on the other, especially like up the Great River Road through Nebraska, the Platte River Road. So we needed to go back and kind of piece together all the other trails, and it just so happened that he needed that same piece that I needed to do to complete the California Trail. He had that same piece to do to complete the Pony Express Trail. He had that same pieces to put together to complete the California Trail. So we ended up getting together and piecing together those other. We didn't want to hike up the Great Platte River Road 6 times, okay?
Right.
So cut us some slack on that. We didn't, but we were able to take that section that we'd hike individually. That was part of the Oregon Trail that we hiked first, and then we can tie the rest of all of them together because they all kind of. Those trails of westward expansion are kind of like a rope. If you think about it, it just wasn't fixed on either end, so it's all frayed out. But in the center part, the main part of the central part of the United States, all those trails pretty much coincided one on top of the other. For example, there's 6 of them goes through South Pass in Montana. They all go up over South Pass. That's the only way they could get wagons over the Rockies was through South Pass. So we just got to be friends and hiked all those trails together. So I've done all 11 National Scenic Trails. I managed to do 2 complete continental continental hikes across the United States, east, west, and north, south. And then the 6 trails, the main trails of westward expansion would be your Lewis and Clark. Out and back, I did that during the 200th anniversaries of those trails. A little over 5,000 miles and mostly road walking.
Wow.
The main one other than that would be your Oregon Trail, kind of started the whole thing. And then the spin-off with the gold discovery was the 49ers, and that would be your California Trail. Brought an awful lot of people west because of the gold rush. But then you have the Mormon Pioneer Trail. They were persecuted and ended up just picking up and leaving Missouri and Illinois and ended up out there in Salt Lake City. And then the most exciting and the fun one of all of them is the Pony Express Trail. Between Salt Lake City, Utah, and Carson City, Nevada, it's 550 miles across that desert out there, and there ain't nothing out there. And that's the way the Pony Express went through there. And folks were saying, well, there's no way you can hike that thing. You can maybe walk the road. Highway 50 is known as the most lonely highway in the world, where it crosses that 500 miles out there. So I went out and spent a month with my 4-wheel drive, and I buried food and water for Bart and I out there. Every 30 miles I was able to get up those gulches and ruts all over the place there, and got back where the Pony Express came through. And every 30 miles I buried 4 gallons of water and food for us, so we did that traverse in 29 days.
Wow.
And we found all of the caches, and none of them had been disturbed.
Wow.
Wow.
So I've done all 6 of the trails of westward expansion, the 11 National Scenic Trails. I managed to piece together all 4 corners and all 4 sides of the United States, the lower 48. That adds up to 19,000 miles and change.
Wow.
So I shoot my mouth off about that.
Well deserved.
Whitman said, if you've done it, it ain't bragging.
Exactly.
So I can shoot my mouth off.
Exactly.
And what is it about long distance hiking that keeps you coming back?
I guess it used to be the mystique and the challenge of it, but we talked about this a while ago, and you folks have immersed yourselves back into the hiking community because it's just such a unique group of people. And the diversity that's there, you'd think there's no way these people could identify with each other or have anything whatsoever in common. And yet you and I, we've created friendships in ways with other people that are like-minded just because of nothing other than we enjoy nature and being out on the trail. It ties us all together. It's such a fascinating thing. And I think that's what brings me back now, especially to the AT. The hikes I did across the continent. Route 66, I hiked that thing, and I'd go into one of those little Indian trading posts out there in the middle of nowhere. they'd look out there and say, "Oh, we didn't hear you drive up." And I said, "Well, I didn't drive up." That's kind of another whole reason for going, is just the novelty and the enjoyment of seeing the expression on people's faces. But the main thing I think that draws us all back is the camaraderie and the wonderful community and the friendships that we've nurtured and have kept going all these years. Very special to me.
And you've been doing this a while. How old are you?
Well, you kind of beat around, don't you? When you...
Just ask.
I turned 82 last October, so in about 2 more weeks, I'll be closer to 83 looking ahead than I am to 82 looking back. So
Right.
I'll be knocking on the door real hard this fall on 83 when I complete this hike.
We're looking forward to following you. And if people do want to follow you, what is your website?
Oh, thank you. Yes, I have a real nice blog. It's a Christian website. If y'all have children and they want to go in and explore and read about the snakes and the bears, because the snakes and the bears, everybody wants to know, aren't you afraid of the snakes and the bears? And I tell them, no, it's the dang mosquitoes. It's www.nimblewill, NIMBLEWILL, nomad, NOMAD, one word, nimblewillnomad.com. And they can read about my adventures there and see pictures of what I'm talking about. And I have a daily journal entry for this hike, so folks, if they're inclined, would like to keep up with me, can follow my daily progress by going to my website and reading my journal entries.
Awesome.
Thank you for asking.
And when you do complete the trail later this year, you will be the oldest man to complete the AT, correct?
That's what I'm told.
That just kind of happened, right? I mean,
Yeah, there's been a few people hike the AT, and the gentleman that holds the age record for the through hike now is a dear friend of mine, and he's encouraged me. So that's not the driving force on being out here, but I'll take it.
We were fortunate to meet Graybeard on our 2017 hike when he completed that at 82, I think, right?
82.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he turned 82. I don't know why I can't remember it. I think it's June the 5th or 6th, something like that. So he started his hike 3 years ago, 17, I think he hiked, at age 81, and then he turned 82 during the hike, and I turned 82 last October, so when I complete my hike, I will have completed it at an age where I'm 8 months or so older than when he completed it, so whoopee.
Well, it's been such a pleasure having you here at the hostel and getting to some personal time to chat with you and your stories.
Yep, a real honor.
Well, I'm sure blessed to have your friendship, and I thank you very much.
Aw.